The holidays are still going on and Christmas is past, but we're back here with another show live on Fandom Empire for the first time in a little while. I think these two particular individuals are together alone, at least for a little bit. For the first time in, it's been a bit. It's hard to arrange things sometimes, and well, without further ado, my partner in crime, Mr. Tommy B. What's going on, man?
What's up? We had some stuff worked out, but my new free night just isn't working, right? So we gotta do we take what we get, right? We do what we can do, and tonight's one of those nights that we can do.
Yeah.
So tonight we will do.
We're gonna do a lot tonight. We're gonna talk, at least Tommy and I, anyways. They're gonna talk Halloween and what we can expect to hear in 2024 regarding the upcoming TV series, based simply on where we think they are in their very, very early timeline.
Very, very early.
Very, very early for sure. So we have that coming. That'll be right off the top, too. We're also going to talk about Kylo Ren's legacy in Star Wars. This is a character I've been thinking about a lot lately, and more so how I felt about the character dating back to 2015 when we really first got to experience anything with him. So I want to spend some time later on talking about Kylo Ren. Hey, it's a new week, and there's more Supernatural revival talk, even though there's holidays going on. Jensen and Jared just can't seem to stop talking about the subject, and this time we're going to talk a little bit about how, if it is to happen, how Jensen would prefer it to happen. So, and I think if he has a preference, you probably need to listen, because unless it's done exactly how Jensen and Jared want it to be done, then it's not going to get done. So, we're going to talk that, then we're going to talk some wrestling at the end. Drama, and then some cool CM Punk WWE stuff. First off, Tom, merry belated Christmas, I suppose. How was it? We all, you and I mean, I still work in the transportation industry. You used to work in the transportation industry, so how was the traveling aspect of the holidays? Because I always hate it.
Yes. Merry ho-ho in the ongoing 12 days of Christmas. I'm hanging in there, dude. Driving in this time of year is, well, it's just ass. No matter what you make of it, right? Like, everyone forgets how to drive if they knew in the first place. They all want to go either 25 in a 65, 70 some mile per hour area, or they want to go 165, 75 in a 65, 75, whatever, right, area. No one knows how to freaking drive. No one knows how to freaking merge. No one knows how to do anything. But, hey, you and I both know, as well as hopefully everybody else, every time you get behind the wheel, you take a risk. And the odds were in our favor. So, overall, we had a good time. A good time visiting the family. For me, specifically, this was my third trip to and from in the past about month, when you include American Thanksgiving. So I was very, very busy, very much traveling over the last month. I'm looking forward to not doing it for a little bit. I'm ready for a break, you know what I'm saying?
My break won't come till January 9th, so there's still lots of traveling between now and then. And it is what it is, I suppose. At the end of the day, we do it, and some of us are safe about it, and others are not. But anytime you're going out there with your family on the holidays behind the wheel, it's, you got to be alert and you got to be safe. And I'm not trying to give a safety driving class here, but just, if anybody else is traveling for the holidays out there, just take extra time, be cautious. You don't get a second chance at this thing called life. That being said, man, we were driving home, and we're about an hour and a half away from where we used to live. Some of the worst fog I've ever driven in my life, and it was at nighttime too. So like, it's pretty brutal. You can barely see anything. It's one of those single lane highways where you got traffic going one way and then traffic going the other way. So like the visibility was some of the worst I've ever driven in my life. So yeah, anybody driving out there, just be safe at this time of year. That being said, sir, I want to take a moment before we go any further. We've gotten some comments on some of our videos that we've done lately, and we've had some people reach out. Some of you were nice enough to DM me over the holidays, whether it was the 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, just to say Merry Christmas. It's really appreciated. I try to do the same myself, even if it's a simple sentence or two, just to show appreciation to others and know that you're in our thoughts. And I just wanted to address some of the stuff with Fandom Empire briefly. I know there are people that probably look at the channel and go, wow, this is, a lot different than what it used to be. And it is. And some of it is for the better and some of it is not. That's just what happens. The algorithm isn't in our favor now. And there are some people that were overly, maybe overly critical isn't the right word, but critical of our coverage of Halloween Ends and maybe how we received the movie afterwards. And that's fine. I understand.
It was bad.
Yeah. I bring this up, Tommy, because I was on another YouTube channel, sort of not hiding. I just wasn't talking, to be honest. I still, when I can, I'll watch YouTube before bed, usually on TV. So like I don't have a way to communicate in the chat anyways, unless I pull up on my phone. So I've been watching various channels live and have heard our name come up a couple of times, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. And I was watching, it was Fauci Cinema, and someone, I can't remember the name of the person, I wish I could though, had said they used to tune into our channel, but they got sick of us talking about how we were the first to report something, or we were right in reporting this. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, sincerely, because it's been a while since we've really had to do anything like that regarding Halloween anyways. We're going to try to be in that game as much as we can, but the truth is we just don't have the connections that we would have with a Blumhouse production to follow it as closely as we did that trilogy. But it wasn't about, boasting about being right. And maybe I didn't convey that in the best of ways at times. And that's something maybe that I can work on. However, when you're hearing other content creators talk about things that were reported first on our channel and the credit isn't being given where it should be simply because they don't believe in what you're doing and think that you're some kind of fraud, it makes you a little bit defensive, and you want to get it out there that, hey, timestamp it, look at what you put out there. And maybe I should have let it roll off my shoulders a little better than I did back then, but there was a reason for it. It wasn't about, hey, look at us, we're right. It was more so discrediting the people that were talking down to us and still apparently do. So that's all. We'll work on it. My apologies. Tommy, what about you, man? You've been in the content creation game for a long time. And this is a topic that's going to come up a little later that you won't be here for. So I want to get your opinion on it before we dive into Halloween. There, to me, in my opinion, in 2023, and not just this year, probably the last few years, there is this thing online where you can't, I'm not saying you can't, but it seems like you can't have a debate or a conversation with someone without one side vilifying the other side over something just to prove their point right and or wrong. Dean here, Dean, who might actually join us for a second. Sorry, Dean, it's just the whole message. Ignore the first part. I see it all the time in our Legacy of Halloween group. And Dean and Rachel and everybody else that's a mod over there. And by the way, we're still looking for mods for that group. We never created that group with the intention of it, having almost 300,000 people in it. It definitely outgrew us by a long shot. So if you're interested in being a part of a team and just, talking Halloween and moderating that mess, then hit us up and we'll see if it's a fit or not. But back to my line of questioning, Tommy, do you think in social media, content creation, Twitter, Facebook, I feel like you've had to see this at some point where it's not so much about what you like, but it's about wanting to be validated about how you feel about something. And then when it doesn't happen, you get one side vilifying the other. It's almost like it's a, if you don't like what I like, it's me against the world type attitude out there. And I've never really understood that. To me, I've always, you know what I say, love what you love. Who cares what anybody else thinks?
Yeah, it displays a few features when we see this. We see a lack of willingness to actually engage in conversation, in debate. We see an unwillingness to go in with a open mind. We see a lack of tolerance for others' perspectives. None of it is okay. It just shows folks aren't there for the fandom. They're not there for the good conversation, intellectual conversation, if we want to say it that way. They're just looking to back up their own opinion, maybe even at worst case scenario to put someone else's down. It's not good. It's not all right. And I know you've been in this boat before. Maybe you still are to an extent. That's why I've moved away from activity on a lot of fan type groups and communities, because I just don't have the time for it. I don't have opinions that I feel the need to elevate above other opinions at the cost of that. I know what I feel about different forms of content. I know I tend to be pretty open-minded. I'm willing to give things a second chance after a settling period. I'm willing to do whatever I can just to benefit my own fandom, my own experience. And sometimes that benefits the experiences of others. And hey, when that happens, everybody wins. But that's the minority of my experience. I don't see that nearly as often as I'd like. And it's unfortunate. So what that ends up meaning, with the little time I have, I just tend not to spend it with a lot of fandom conversation. I tend to spend it with folks who I know are going to give a good conversation. You're one of the main ones, and it's been a while since you and I have been able to talk so freely. So what can we say about that, right?
Damn phone. Fucking phone.
Can't charge your phone and you don't have working speakers.
I can charge my phone, but the speaker on it is just shot for whatever reason. Like I can use this to listen to like audiobooks or YouTube or whatever. And if I play a message from you on my phone, I can hear you through it. But apparently I can't talk through my phone and have you hear me on your end, which is dumb. So is what it is. What's going on, Dean? Merry belated Christmas, man. You resting up? I'm sure it was a crazy time for you.
Yeah, last week was the light week. This week coming up is the big one where we have about four major events coming up. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and New Year's Eve is the biggest one, and it's at the end of the weekend. So I have quite the ride coming up.
A whole lot of no sleep on the way,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Well, fitting time to join us, man, because we're going to get into some Halloween discussion here and what we may or may not see over the next little while regarding the TV series. I've seen other channels talking about what you may or may not be able to expect regarding that in the coming time. You and I were talking about how, someone was probably just throwing something out there for the sake of discussing it.
Right.
And rather than, taking a tiny nugget of information, which may contain something or contain nothing, I wanted to approach this more from the look. There's just a strike. The rights deal just happened. Now, in order for that rights deal to be completed, they had to have already had an idea where they were going creatively. So it's not like they were like, we got the rights, now let's start with a blank canvas. Where are we going? There is something already that has been worked on and is in place, nowhere near complete, and we don't know who's working on it. If you listen to the Taking Shape books or read the Taking Shape books, they're a prime example of before there's a rights deal in place for a future upcoming movie. Many Halloween movies have been worked on and pitched during that time over the years. So, regardless of what anyone says, it's not a blank canvas. They made a bid on these rights, having some sort of plan to go forward. So I wanted to approach this more from, hey, it's 2024. The deal was done in late 2023, and then the strike finally ended. What's a realistic timetable of events that you could see playing out in 2024, Dean? Like, where are your, not necessarily what you think is going to happen, but where's your expectations in terms of what you think we might hear? And if not officially, from major outlets like The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, places like that, about the Halloween TV series project during all of next year. It could be this time next year we hear it.
Yeah.
Where do you set your expectations on what you might hear?
I'm pretty much just expecting, I guess, maybe scoring if we finally, hear the announcement of them bringing Carpenter back, like we had talked about. So kind of like your breadcrumbs here and there to kind of lead into, I guess, what we should kind of finally begin to expect. So hopefully, we hear creative, we hear scoring, and we get maybe a couple of cast announcements. Would I think it'd be a good start.
Tommy V, we've seen how slow the Star Wars news cycle can be at times in terms of getting things off the ground, and Halloween is not Star Wars. And knowing that they just officially put a deal in place a couple months ago for this TV series, what would your expectations be for 2024? Like, it's not going to come out in 2024. That's not even on the board. That's not possible. So what would your expectations be on what the public hears all of next year?
As far as TV series, as far as movies?
Well, I know they said the Halloween cinematic universe, but I do not believe they're going to start with a movie. I think their hope would be to have a movie attached by the 50-year anniversary date.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we may see something by Halloween, and that's a May. And when I say see something, I don't mean a product. I mean a teaser. I just don't see them turning around anything that quickly. I'd like to be wrong.
Well, that's the other thing, right? I mean, in terms of the development path here, there's been numerous times where a Halloween project is greenlit and it's going forward, and they say they're going to have an announcement by such and such date, and then you don't hear anything. And at times that's happened and you haven't heard anything for a year or two. So I'd love to say that that's not possible, but this franchise has proved time and time again it absolutely is. There is, I think it's a very minimal possibility, but there's at least a chance you could go all of next year and have heard nothing, despite the rights being in place, and them be no closer to making a TV series.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Like you said, it's one we don't hope for. So hopefully we can kind of get some details. But I think Tommy's kind of on the nose a little bit with aiming for like at least a Halloween 2024 announcement of some kind. Maybe a teaser, maybe a small sizzle reel or something. But they would have to obviously start filming to have any kind of footage for that. So maybe not, but some type of announcement, maybe a release date announcement for the following year, something along those lines, something small, just to kind of get like the buzz going. Someone breaking into it, Sean?
Sounded like no idea. All right, apologies, guys. Yeah, well, so like for me, my expectations are pretty simple. I think you will find out who the showrunner / creative person is behind the show, the mastermind, the guy who at the end of the day is going to decide the direction of the story. I think if you don't get casting announcements, I believe you will at least hear the names that are being considered. I think one way or another, if Michael Myers is involved, that you will get confirmation of that as well. You'll probably get confirmation that John Carpenter will be involved on some level or another. Those are the types of things that I think you're going to hear next year. You might hear a shooting schedule, shooting date. You might hear who's working on scripts. You might hear who's part of the story group in terms of the writers' room, because that's a must now. It's mandated. I think those are all things that, as long as things are on track, you are going to hear throughout different times of the year. If it's going really good, maybe they start filming this thing by fall or winter next year.
Yeah.
My guess is it will film sometime in early to mid 2025. But those are the type of things that I think that you can wonder and talk about. And, maybe you already have an idea who you want the showrunner to be for this thing. I've always said I'd be over the moon about Flanagan, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I just don't think you can expect anything more than that. I know there's going to be people that want posters, and maybe theoretically you get the briefest of early teaser posters, kind of like when they put out the clip art from had like Halloween and the knife pointing down before we'd seen anything about Michael or anything with the Blumhouse movie. You might see something like that. But I think expectations should be kept not necessarily low, but realistic.
Yeah.
You're not going to be dissecting a 2.5-minute trailer in the year 2024 for the Halloween TV series.
No.
I'd be stunned and worried about such a rushed production. What I do think is you'll hear about the creatives involved and who's attached, and you might hear some specifics on story direction. But I think it'll just be a lot of behind the scenes and table setting in terms of who's going to be steering the ship.
Yeah, I think that's pretty realistic. It's kind of right along the lines of what I had mentioned, and quite a few things that we've been talking about on Monday nights for the past few weeks. So I think that's realistic, and that's pretty much all people should expect, is like little breadcrumbs here and there.
Yeah, 100%. I know there was some belief in the industry that we might hear something before the end of the year. And well, I suppose there's still time for that to happen. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. But there are various different things that Miramax will be involved in next year, where they're going to, the media is going to have a chance to ask about this project. So one way or another, you're going to hear something sooner rather than later.
When you say hear something, do you mean like through the rumor mill?
No, I mean officially. Like Miramax is not going to be able to hide from this. It was a big.
Why would they talk about a Halloween project in December, right after Christmas?
Well, they missed their window to talk about it before then. So we got word about Halloween 2018. I believe it was. I'm trying to think when word first came out about that. I want to say it was like early 2017, where word started to get out that something might be happening with Blumhouse. I want to say it was like early spring 2017, and then they were shooting by winter slash I think what was it, December, January of 2018, and then the movie was out later that year. So I just don't think they do stuff like I don't think we live in a world where you have to begin mentioning things at a specific time anymore. I just think if it's covered at a certain place and it's big enough news, it'll be covered everywhere, and word will get out there. And honestly, sooner the better, because if you do the Lucasfilm game where you play coy with your news and it's just coming out through like rumor sites and shit, you're just playing with fire at that stake. If you have something tangible, then put it out there.
Yeah, that's what I would agree with. Get the news out there. It's going to create some kind of buzz and get people interested fairly early. But the only issue with that is once you start that and it becomes more difficult to kind of keep up with that, you get people just clamoring for more and more and more. And it's almost like they're just not fully satisfied with the few things that they hear first. So hopefully, they can kind of come up with some kind of schedule where they put certain news out, every few months or every few weeks, something here and there, just to kind of keep people interested. So I guess we'll see.
Dean, anything you want to add before we outro you? Because I don't think you're going to want to watch or talk Star Wars with us. Anything you want to tease people about? We do have the best of Halloween 2018 episode, and that'll be out tomorrow. Okay. So people can look forward to that probably sometime in the afternoon.
All right.
I'm just going to put it live. I won't have it set for any specific time, but it's about a half an hour episode of just things we really enjoyed about Halloween 2018. But is there anything else you want to plug or put out there?
I was just going to say, I was going to mention that. So that's coming out tomorrow. We recorded that last week. So I've even been looking forward to kind of going back and watching that. You guys can find me on Facebook at Dean Renner and in the Legacy of Halloween Facebook group. And I guess a little tease for our next show on Monday night. I have a pretty fun import item for show and tell that I've been anxiously waiting on for quite some time. And it took about 2 weeks total to ship and finally get to my door. And oddly enough, I got it on Christmas Eve. So I wasn't expecting that delivery that day. So the show and tell on the next live episode is going to be pretty fun to watch.
I like anything where imports involved. When I was younger, I didn't pay enough attention to what were imports and things that you could get if you went that route. My dad was all over it in terms of vinyl records and stuff.
Right.
But now I look back at some of the things that you didn't realize even existed when you were younger.
Yeah.
Like I've seen Star Wars VHS sets that I've never ever seen before in my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh well, I wish I had the ability to order it back then. So,
right. Do you remember the old VHS sets for Star Wars that came in the black and gold and the black and silver box sets?
Yes, I have the black and gold one.
I was going to say I still have that one hanging around as well. And over the holiday, I was at my mom's house for Christmas dinner, and we're sitting at the table and we're chatting. And she goes, I think I still have a box of all of our old VHS tapes, which I thought we sold off long ago. So once I heard that, I was like, we got to find those, and I got to pick through that and see what we still have. So I'm curious to see what we still have from way back in the day.
Man, yeah, I loved that set, but I remember being so mad because I didn't have a widescreen TV.
Oh, right.
I wanted the widescreen set because I thought the black and silver looked better than the black and gold. Specifically because Darth Vader was a big part of it, and the black and silver made it look more like Darth Vader than the black and gold. But yeah, no, that was a very iconic set. Maybe my favorite Star Wars ever did.
It's a good one. It's definitely a good one, and I'm happy to still have it. So yeah,
that's bad. Did you have that one, Tommy? The classic VHS special edition set?
I may have had one back in the day. You know what? No. So the story goes that the special editions, the black and gold, as a little kid, I borrowed an older cousin, more like an uncle's set, and I wore them out. I watched it too many times. I wore it out. That was the beginning of a lifelong passion of Star Wars. Several years ago, I was at a, you know, Sean, do you know the term flea market?
Yeah.
Okay. So didn't know if that was a American thing or not.
Yeah.
I was at a flea market several years ago, and people got their junk. One person's trash is another person's treasure, just laying on towels and shit. And I picked up a set. I think I paid a few bucks for it,
Nice.
and the box was a little beat up, but they are fine. They are in good looking condition, and I
Yeah, there
still
you
have
go.
them.
Nice.
Those ones there, Dean?
Yeah. That looks like the one.
Mine are not in that good condition.
I'll have to find mine. Take a look. I think it's still in pretty good shape.
Man, they're worth something if they're in decent shape too.
Yeah.
So I loved that box set though. I'm sure if I went back now and watched my VHSs, I would notice just how worn they are.
Yeah.
Because I watched that shit all the time. That's all we had. We had 3 movies.
Mhm.
Only 3.
Yeah.
And now we have too many, including shit ones. So
Yeah.
anyway, there's about as close to a Star Wars discussion that we're going to get with Dean on one of these things.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for coming by, man. I
Yeah,
know
you got it.
have other people possibly stopping by later, but
Very cool.
take it easy. And yeah, Halloween, the best of 2018, available tomorrow on the channel. And then next week, are we back next week? No, that's January 1, isn't it?
It is. I'll be available, so we can talk about whether or not we want to do it, or
All right.
or do a recording and then post it later. So whatever you want to do.
All right. Yeah, let's put our heads together on that and figure it out.
Sounds good.
All right, there you have it. Dean, the head guy behind the Legacy of Halloween Facebook page and co-host of Tonight in Haddonfield, which you can check out on the channel Monday nights at either 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern, depending on the week. So stay tuned to that and all that much more. Tommy B. You know what has been on my mind lately? The galaxy far, far away. Star Wars, man. I've been thinking a lot about Star Wars. Before we go any further, I just want to say happy belated birthday to Byron Weaver in the chat. I just noticed that you said it was your 24th birthday recently, man. So hope it was a great one. Hope you made memories that you'll never forget and made the most of it, buddy. So happy belated from all of us here at Fandom Empire. So I've been thinking about Kylo Ren, right? I've been thinking about the sequel trilogy. I watched the making of The Last Jedi. I really don't ever want to watch anything that has to do with The Rise of Skywalker again, but I'm sure I will. And then The Force Awakens, I have really fond feelings over. And I've been, it sounds stupid. Maybe it sounds over analytical, but I've been trying to remember how I felt about certain things. Richard, I'm going to get to you and Byron and Hannah's Town and Entertainment Wizard in the chat here shortly. But I've been thinking about how I felt about that movie. Not just now, but like after I first saw it, and what were the major things I took away, and what was the feeling I had the most coming away from seeing The Force Awakens the first time or two. And honestly, I think it was the impact of Kylo Ren. I think it was that character in that movie and the way that he is played by Adam Driver was the thing I loved most. Now, don't get me wrong. Harrison Ford was back as Han Solo, and whenever Harrison Ford is back as Han Solo, it's worth talking about. But I don't know, man. I left and I just felt like, holy fuck, this is an amazing new big bad for Star Wars. I'm digging it. There were elements of Legends in there. And, I was actually sparked by Adam Driver to kind of revisit these feelings because I had heard him talking about what he was pitched on before agreeing to the role. Despite them only having plans set in stone for one movie. They had pitched him an entire character arc for Kylo Ren / Ben Solo. Not that he knew the events of all three movies, but he knew where his character was supposed to end up. And he said after the first one, it took a turn from where it was supposed to, but he was still somewhat on board at that point. But he was still trying to remember how he was playing the role in the first movie, because he was playing the role specifically in The Force Awakens with the events in mind that the character was supposed to go through in the following two pictures. And then he said you got to The Rise of Skywalker, and it just wasn't anything that he was told about at the beginning, and they went down a completely different path. And obviously, he signed NDAs. Remember that term, because we're going to talk about NDAs in a little bit. He didn't reveal where it was supposed to go, obviously, because he can't. But he just said, that was not what he was pitched and not what he signed up for. And he still tried to play the role as best as he could based off of the information he had at the beginning, because that's how he had attached himself to the character. But that he found it difficult in The Rise of Skywalker, simply because they changed so drastically on where the plan was from the beginning. Like, they'd already altered at The Last Jedi, then they altered again even more at The Rise of Skywalker. Does that surprise you in any way, man? And how do you feel? How did you feel about Kylo Ren, 8 years ago?
I'm sorry, what? 8 years ago?
8 years ago.
That was The Force Awakens. I'm going to say, that's not The Rise of Skywalker. Don't do that to me. How did I feel? Great potential. Didn't get to see it as I would have liked. Adam Driver to this day is a fantastic actor. I catch a SNL skit every once in a while. It's not something I typically follow, but the wife likes to see it on like TikTok and all that. So I see something every once in a while. I don't like the what the story did with him in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't like what the story did with him in The Last Jedi. Honestly, that's not how I wanted him to be at the forefront of being the big bad. And he didn't even last as the big bad. That's not how I wanted it to do. And this just goes back to the storyline not working, in my opinion. So many issues, so many complications. Yeah, it's a mess. And I would have... When you have Kylo Ren and you have the decisions he made, it's the same principle as Vader. Vader turned back to the light at the end of his life. There would be no reconciling him back into a new republic. There would be none. He had too many skeletons in his closet. Kylo Ren may not have had the years that Vader had, but he sure was. His name was all over a lot of damage and a lot of death. He would not be able to be reconciled back into a republic. He would ultimately probably be, at best, put away for life in a prison somewhere or executed. So having him go out the way they did is a not so bad thing. But the romance with Rey is a little weird. It's a little weird. I got some weird thoughts about it. I'd much rather see her end up with Finn down the line, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time, if it's ever to be.
Are you kidding me? Finn's in the friend zone, man.
The way John Boyega's talking, I don't see like he's ever returning. Although I think I've seen some conflicting things with that.
He's in the friend zone. He's not getting out of there.
Ray!
It depends how much Ray and Finn buy into the whole you shouldn't be attached to someone else nonsense. So
Yeah, that nonsense, exactly.
that nonsense.
They're too far removed from the Jedi Order. They are way too far removed from it.
I still love the theory that when Ben brings her back and kisses her and dies, that she actually is like carrying his child, sort of thing, and ends up raising a young Ben Solo as the next chosen one, sort of thing.
What?
It's
What? That what? That
it's been a theory that's been thrown out there. There's nothing tangible.
why?
Why not? Isn't it better than having a Palpatine carry around the Skywalker name?
Do people think that's how babies are made who see this movie?
Don't make me bring Boba Fett in here to side with me.
Oh my gosh. That's it. That's it. That's where Anakin came from. There you go.
All right. Well, you asked for this, man. Without further ado, we're not on to wrestling yet, but friend of the show, good guy. It's Bobo Matt. What's going on, man?
Hey, that's how babies are born?
Baby talk on Fandom Empire.
Yeah, that's a first. I believe Tommy be lead us in that conversation.
No, please no. Matt, I know you're not you don't follow Star Wars on the level that Tommy and I do, but what did you think of Kylo Ren when The Force Awakens came out compared to after all three movies were out together?
I wasn't a big fan of him at the beginning. Not just because he killed his own father, but I just for lack of a better word, he just came off as a pussy to me. And I didn't like him. I didn't think he had... I wanted a legitimate bad guy, another Vader. And I think that's what they wanted too in the beginning. And like you said, I heard the character he signed on for in the first one is not the character they got through the other movies. But I think because they could never sell him as a legitimate bad guy, they turned him back. The story arc went that way because I think that's where, JJ wanted a certain way with him, and probably what he was pitched with JJ attached, and it just didn't work. And I think Rian Johnson, I think that was his name, tried to tweak him a little bit to a sense of being a bad guy, and he just couldn't sell it. He couldn't. So by the time JJ comes back for a third film, they're just like, fuck this. We're just gonna by the end of the movie, he's gonna find himself. Let's bring Harrison back for a scene and go from there. But yeah, I don't think they could ever sell him the way they wanted to.
You just called him Rian Johnson. I loved that. It's just Ryan, just spelled differently. I did buy him because I thought he was different. I didn't want Vader 2.0. I wanted a guy who was a little bit of a loose
pansy.
I loved the guy where, he's freaking out and he's slashing the computer with his lightsaber, and I dug that. It was like, okay. Yeah, and then Ray gets away and he freaks out on the room where she was being held, and the stormtroopers sort of see it and they're like, yeah,
we're gonna go the other way.
But it also sort of indicated like, hey, this isn't the first time we've seen this guy go off. Like, so I dug it. I wanted more of that, to be honest.
You wanted more tantrums.
I did. I wanted more. Look, if there was time between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I would have been fine with it, but there isn't. There's like 2 days. That's the time jump in terms of where Kylo is and where the rebels are. Obviously, we pick up immediately with Rey and Luke. And I felt like he went from that to he's fairly calm, cool, and collected in The Last Jedi. And I was like, yeah, I get that you just killed your dad, but you were still the guy pounding the blood out of your chest from the wound from Chewie in a fight and freaking out. Like, I think they kind of fucked that up when they wrote it to just continue right after. And I did want more tantrums. I wanted to go on a journey where he could get to the point where he's calm, cool, and collected. But to just sort of be there without it being earned, that took away from me for a little bit. So also the Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder thing in The Last Jedi. Fuck that. Fuck that whole scene. Byron asks a question that I think we'll try to tackle here. Revenge of the Sith or The Force Awakens? Which is a better made movie? Now, Byron, which is a better made movie or which is the better movie? I don't necessarily think those are the same questions. But let's just assume he means which movie do you prefer? Tommy B, The Force Awakens or Revenge of the Sith, and why?
The Force Awakens or Revenge of the Sith. Which is the better movie? Or the better made movie?
No, just which one do you prefer?
Oh, Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, why?
Less derivative. That's my first answer. And I could probably go on for a while as to why, but The Force Awakens was largely a reshot of A New Hope. It's very difficult to, do a rebuttal to that. They went with nostalgia, and they did it very nicely. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I didn't like The Force Awakens. I still like The Force Awakens. It's the best movie out of that trilogy as a whole. But yeah, absolutely Revenge of the Sith.
Pat? Sorry, you're eating. I'll go. Finish your thing.
What are you eating?
So I'll let him answer that in a second. Revenge of the Sith, for me, Revenge of the Sith is my second favorite Star Wars film ever, but it is also followed up immediately by The Force Awakens, which makes this difficult. Revenge of the Sith, whether you like the prequels or not, throw the first two movies out the window if you have to, and watch that movie, because you are literally, as soon as that movie starts, you are inserted into one of the busiest, craziest, most out there space battles in Star Wars at the end of the Clone Wars following Kenobi and Skywalker, which leads immediately as they're trying to rescue Sheev, which leads immediately into Anakin, Obi-Wan versus Dooku Part 2. Right? Like, you literally go from that space battle to they're on the ship to, okay, now they're against now they're against Dooku, to now they're, trying to escape the ship because the ship gets attacked by the Republic vessel, and it does the little where it's doing the nosedive thing, and they have to recover. There's the cool elevator sequence. They're captured by Grievous, and then there's the crash landing. Like, Revenge of the Sith does not stop. The slowest you get is after that crash landing sequence on Coruscant, and that's basically just so you can catch up with Anakin and Padme and understand where they are at this time in their relationship, and it's done very well. but it's major event after a major event for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I love The Force Awakens, and it's a fast-moving movie too, but it does, like, I don't think there's a single Star Wars movie that is as easy to watch as Revenge of the Sith. That includes Empire.
I think my opinion lies a lot with where you're at. I thought Force Awakens was a great movie. It brought back the nostalgia we all loved. It brought back the characters we all loved. But there's just something about Revenge of the Sith. I mean, as soon as that movie comes on, you know where you're heading. You know exactly where that movie's heading. And you're just hoping it's done right to get there. And when I say you know where that movie's heading is, Obi-Wan versus Anakin. That whole sequence is probably one of the best choreographed fights I think we'll ever see. I mean, they might get better down the road, but as a whole, I mean, for a good 20, 30 minutes. I mean, I know they come back to other scenes, but that fight was just powerful. It was emotional, and it's everything it should have been. So is it the better movie? Yeah, it's the better movie. Is it the better made movie? Yeah, it is. I think Lucas wanted to send us out with a bang, and he did. And he opened the door and set things up so perfectly for what Rogue One, the way he ended it, and that's a credit to him to leave stuff open like that. I sometimes get emotional when I watch the Revenge of the Sith. I mean, that fight, because it just gets to you, because you've seen the whole story arc.
Yeah, the one thing I don't think the movie conveys that the novel conveys. I think the movie tries to do it a couple of times where it shows Anakin tearing up after he's already become Vader and he's thinking about what he did. But like, he actually has that conversation in the novel during breaks in the fight with Kenobi about, how can he ever come back from this sort of thing. And the movie could have benefited from that. I don't know if George just didn't trust Hayden's ability to deliver performance such as that, but I would argue that his performance in Ahsoka goes against that. But yeah, I have so much love for Revenge of the Sith, and as it stands right now, I believe we'll be doing a big watch party for Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith in May of this year. So be on the lookout for that on the channel, because I think we got January's Empire, February's Jedi, March's Phantom Menace, April's Attack of the Clones, which makes Revenge of the Sith May. So looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. Tommy, we will actually, before we go, we'll give you this last question. In your opinion, what was the last great Star Wars movie?
That's a very difficult question. No, I think it was, because my answer is always different from everybody else's, because I don't see eye to eye with folks on it. What came out last, Rise of Skywalker or Solo?
So the release would be, he's asking, what do we think the last great one was? And I think the reverse release would be Rise of Skywalker, Solo, Last Jedi, Rogue One, The Force Awakens, Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith.
All right, so I really don't know how we're defining great. I'm going to go with my own opinion here, what I thought was great, and that was Solo. I thought Solo was a great piece. I got a lot out of it. The only reason why its impact is negative is because, as I always say, they paid for it twice, and development was a complete nightmare. I feel like we got some good background for Han Solo in the current canon, and it's one I should actually go revisit soon. Yeah, it's one I really like.
Go ahead, Matt.
Real quick, it had a lot of great moments. I think it was good. It could have been great. I think there was a lot of stuff they left on the table with that movie.
Like what? Give me one thing.
God, I haven't seen it in forever. Nah, you put me on the spot. I have brain farts galore. No, I as a whole, I mean, I thought it was a good movie. I think Ron Howard kind of saved it to a degree. With the direction he took it, I think if Ron Howard had been on it the whole time, and I think it would have been, it could have stood to be one of the great ones, like right behind Empire, which is still, I mean, granted, it's made in 1980. It's the greatest Star Wars movie ever made.
Wait, Tommy, sorry, I obviously heard you wrong. Your answer was Solo?
Yeah.
Tommy's was.
Tommy's was Solo. What did I know Dr. Loomis had some thoughts about that.
I am in no way saying that The Force Awakens wasn't a great movie.
Well, no, The Force Awakens came out before that. So if you think Solo's great,
what was the last one? And the last one to me in release order was Solo. Wow. I won't say Rise of Skywalker was, but I'll certainly say Solo was.
I didn't think you thought so highly of Solo.
How? Wow. Have I ever said anything negative about the movie on the channel?
You don't have to say anything negative to not think it's great. It just might be good or okay or really good. Not necessarily great.
If I think something's okay, I'm saying negative things about it.
How dare you? This is 2023, man. You know,
I think so. I've turned around a little bit over time, and I've done this on the channel a few times. I've gone back and I've said, you know, when we pull our favorite scenes in the franchise of the cinematic side, there are a lot on my list from The Last Jedi. It doesn't mean I think it's a great movie. I think that the movie itself was okay, but there is a rap sheet of problems. Now, Solo, on the other hand, I think it tells a pretty good story that is unfortunately hindered by production, by the logistics surrounding the movie, and by how Disney has addressed the movie and the story that could come following it. By the time we see anything else to do with that project, are the actors even going to look like the characters in the movie anymore? They're going to have to do a time skip, or they're going to have to throw some real good makeup on them.
So, in my opinion, the correct answer, at least in my mind, to that question, was Rogue One. I think Rogue One was the last great Star Wars movie. I've come around a lot on The Last Jedi. I went from thinking it's trash to it's, you know, an okay Star Wars movie that's probably too long with the whole storyline in it I don't agree with. Solo, I think, is a good movie. I think I would have liked to see what they would have done with it if they had not gotten fired. Not saying that I don't like what Ron Howard did, but I would have liked to see what the original intent for the movie was. Because apparently it was quite a bit different than what we got. So I can't say it was a great movie. So there you have it. Tommy, what are you up to these days, man? Where can everybody find you at, good sir?
Mostly here whenever I'm here. Or working.
Mostly here whenever he's here.
Yeah.
There you
One
have
of
it.
these days we'll do a Thursday show, maybe eventually.
It won't be
That was
next week, I can tell you
originally.
that, and it won't be tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see. It's hard. Really, a lot of the activity around the channel are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays right now just because of availability. So anyways, big thanks to Tommy B for coming out and spending the first hour of the show with us. We know Tommy B is not the world's biggest wrestling fan, so we're going to get him out of here, and I don't see anybody else here to stop Matt and I from going off on something we want to go off about, so we're going to get to it. Tommy, bon voyage, sir. Oops. And then there were two. I'm trying to think where we start with this, man.
No, I want you to go right into it.
Okay, so let's start here.
Okay.
Okay. Are you aware of everything that went down Christmas morning? Christmas
A little
morning.
bit.
Not the 24th, not the 23rd. Christmas morning. Chris Jericho's gotten into a little bit of the bubbly and decides he's going to inject himself into a conversation that he's not a part of. So basically, to catch everybody up, in the last couple weeks, it's come to light who one of CM Punk and Ace Steel's lawyers are. Ace Steel kind of outed him. Not in like a harmful way, but in a, hey, we want to give this guy credit because he's a big wrestling guy too. That obviously puts a target on that fella's back and really all their backs if you're a pro elite person. That doesn't mean that everybody that's pro elite is going around doing shit, and it doesn't mean that everybody's pro Punk and pro Ace Steel is going around and doing shit. But anyways, he basically gave he spoke about what he could have in terms of Brawl Out, which was not much, and just said that Punk and Steel were two of the most upstanding, outright honest individuals, maybe even to a fault, that he has ever met. And I guess Chris Jericho caught wind of this interview that was done by Rip Rogers, and he decided to tag one Steven, I can't remember his name now, Steven something, in a post on Twitter or X, calling him out. And one of the fellas, I won't name him, but one of the fellas in our chat basically was like, yeah, Jericho roasted Punk's lawyer. Ha ha. And that's what brought my attention to it. So I went and looked at it, and I'm reading what happened, and that was not the take I got from it at all. The take I got from it was Jericho's a dipshit who once again can't keep his fucking mouth shut and has painted AEW in a bad light yet again. But I can see how the anti-Punk crowd wants to spin some anti-Punk agenda into this. You guys might notice Punk hasn't said a fucking word too, by the way, in quite some time about any of this. Jericho tweets out, I wonder if I can find the exchange here. I wonder if he deleted it. Stephen P. New is his name, by the way.
Yeah, I just found it.
Stephen P. New. So Chris Jericho's website, by the way, his website posts an article that says CM Punk and Ace Steel's lawyer reveals only person involved in Brawl Out without an NDA, which is Ace Steel's wife. Okay. Keep in mind, it's Jericho's owned website that puts out the article. Jericho then quote tweets his own website, mind you. And again, up until this point, Jericho's not involved at all in the conversation. And he says, I didn't sign one, ... To which Stephen New replies, Stephen New being Punk and Steel's lawyer, it's in your employee handbook. Unless you have a special one, we can figure it out. Which I got a kick out of. And I'm trying to find Jericho's tirade here. It's got to be here somewhere.
Hold on.
There
you go.
Oh, I got it here. And it just disappeared. Son of a bitch. Where'd you send that, Matt?
Messenger.
Great entertainment right now as we try to find the exact quote. Hey, Stephen New. This is Jericho. I don't adhere to an employee handbook and never had one in 4 years of working in AEW. Well, the problem with that is the employee handbook is already public knowledge and already visually out there. I've also never signed an NDA in my life, ... ever. This is a guy who has worked on professional Hollywood sets, by the way, and he has apparently never signed an NDA. So stop trying to be a bully and making egotistical fantasy brags for your clients and start doing some research before you make blanket statements about your buddies. Because I saw everything that night, including how Lucy and her husband and best buddy acted and what really went down, ... And since I was in the room and watching her and everybody else the whole time, I know exactly what really happened. And considering you weren't there and I was, maybe you should shut your mark ass up, because what really went down was disgusting. To which I don't know. Did Stephen New reply to that one? Oh,
yeah, he did.
It was
it's in your employee handbook unless you have a special one.
No,
we can figure it out.
That's not the reply.
Yeah,
that's not the reply. Interesting. Thank you, Chris. We will just attach this tweet as Exhibit A. Merry Christmas. This is from an actual lawyer. So, as you've probably put together, Chris Jericho had no involvement at all in the discussion that was happening. Not on Rip Rogers' show, not with Stephen P. New. And it was also reported several times during the Brawl Out coverage that Chris Jericho ended up being one of the guys who eventually went in, but was not in the room when it happened, was not in the room hanging out with Punk. He was also in one of the Sharknado movies, which I can almost guarantee you required an NDA to be a part of. He's been a part of other Hollywood productions. Well, some of them might not have required an NDA. Chances are a lot of them did. And when Nick Hausman reached out and asked Jericho, what about the NDAs you've made people sign? Jericho blocked him instead of actually replying to him. This is one of the big top guys in AEW, Matt. One of the big top guys who, by the way, I almost named my son Jericho. Chris Jericho is one of my favorite performers of all time. But let me tell you, I'm far more inclined to believe a lot of the horror stories out there about how this guy has conducted himself backstage over a lot of the shit that's out there about one Phil CM Punk Brooks. For a company that is supposedly, anyway, trying to move away from Brawl Out, trying to move away from CM Punk, as that situation has backfired times 10. Chris Jericho on Christmas morning, Matt, in front of the world, stirs it all up again. So is Brian Danielson going to find Jericho? Because this seems like it's worth being fined big money for.
Should.
You know, the way they're apparently running things now. Like, how fucking egotistical do you need to be to insert yourself in this situation on Christmas morning?
That's the bubbly talking. Do you think we'll get a public apology out of him? No.
The furthest you're going to get to that is he commented on CM Punk's WWE return on Instagram, being like, congrats with fire signs. It's like, I think you did the damage the day before, man.
Right, yeah.
But like, Punk, again, to remind people, everybody that paints him out to be the worst guy in the world, and I'm not saying he's innocent of everything, he has some things he definitely did wrong during that time. For a guy who apparently was the only problem, shit still keeps happening, man, and he's not there causing any of it.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this situation and just the constant drama that seems to follow AEW around? And you might notice they're changing a lot of the behind-the-scenes personnel over there now, too. I think Chris Jericho really fucked up here. What about you?
I think he did, too. And I think whatever power he might have had backstage, he just lost a shitload of it behind these comments. You know, I mean, they were finally starting to move away from it. And I'm like, what are you trying to get ratings? You trying to drag up the drama on Christmas morning? You had a lot of that bubbly the night before, or would you start early?
4 a.m. Christmas morning.
Oh God, yeah, he was. Yeah, he was still.
Santa hadn't even finished delivering the presents to North America.
No, right?
You monster.
And I mean,
you and I see it all the time. Okay, I know you're a little more extreme with your Tony Khan criticism than I am, and I don't feel all that different than you do. I just think you're a little more blunt about how you feel about the way Tony Khan has run things. And I'll give Tony Khan this: there's at least a ton of behind the scenes stuff starting to change. So maybe they're making an attempt to
right.
write. Obviously Tony Khan can't control what Chris Jericho tweets or puts out there, but like this didn't do anything to make the company look any better.
No.
And with the whole, we're now finding people for their what they say on social media, like how can you not find Chris Jericho for this? Not saying they won't, but like they should.
You should, yeah. I think. Do you think he's an integral part of AEW?
I think he was an integral part of AEW. I don't think he's had anything relevant to do since before the Jericho Appreciation Society.
Okay.
Just how I feel.
Because I was like, okay, he's a baby enough that if he gets fined, he might. I'm almost wondering if this is a ploy for him to get out of AEW.
Nah, who knows?
You don't think so?
I would have thought that Punk wasn't trying to get out of AEW at Wembley, but it sure as hell looks like he was now. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He's on a super, super long-term deal, though. When he signed his extension, I believe it was last year.
Yeah.
10-year deal, man. 10 years. A lot of money for them to pay for him to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Daniel Bryan it's Bryan Danielson, I'm sorry. We'll just go knock on his door and say, here's your fine, and walk out the door.
I
just can't see Bryan Danielson going out hanging out fines and shit. Just beneath him.
The thing I find funny is Punk's been gone since the first week of September?
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's gone that long. We're talking like almost 3 months. And like if you're still blaming him for problems that are going on, it's time to look in the mirror because he's not there causing the problems. The current problems are very self-inflicted, and even the problems back then were partially self-inflicted.
You still got a lot of internal issues if you're still going through this.
Yeah. They're just allowed to run wild and do whatever they do. Like I said it in our group chat today. I can understand if you're an Elite fan. I'll try to put myself in their shoes, Matt. Like, honestly, and I want you to try to as well. You're probably pissed off, upset, disgruntled, maybe even disgusted, or just, downright had it. If you're an Elite fan and you see CM Punk being, frankly, I'm going to say it, the biggest star in the industry at the moment on WWE television, pulling in insane ratings, pulling in absolutely astronomical merch numbers, selling out the house show at MSG, you're probably a little pissed that if in their mind, and I try to put myself in this headspace a lot, I don't think the Bucks think they're wrong. I don't think Kenny Omega thought he was wrong. I don't think Tony Khan thinks he's wrong. I think they think they're right, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. So imagine thinking that you're right about your feelings towards this guy, and your product is suffering. The Bucks are literally, currently anyways, as of this second, completely irrelevant and not even on TV, and you don't know when you're going to see them again. And CM Punk is dominating the headlines every other day on social media because of his WWE return that most people in AEW probably thought there was no chance that happening. I know I didn't think there was much of a chance. Can you see it from that perspective at all, Matt? Like why Elite fans would be pissed? I get, the rational ones who aren't going to send messages threatening people, but like I can understand if you think the guy's in the wrong, why all this success while your guys are completely irrelevant might piss you off.
I think it started with the whole Brawl Out with the Young Bucks. And I think Phil was he wanted to make it right. When everything went down, he wanted to make it right. I think we heard the things that he tried to reach out to the Young Bucks, and the Young Bucks were like, saying, and at the end of the day, he stuck out the olive branch, and they did nothing. So, are their feelings justified? Yeah, on a small level. But could they have made things right? Yeah. Did they? No. And I think when the second thing went down, it was just like, we do things a certain way around here, and we're not going to put up with that. And Tony Khan run around saying, I was scared for my life. And, at that point, when I think when Punk says like, man, I can't even sit down with these guys and have a conversation with them and see where things could go, then I think he wanted out. I really do. And that's why I don't think he held anything back with Jungle Boy. And I knew he was going to be back on WWE. I didn't think it was going to be that quick. I thought we might see him at Mania. I thought he was going to close out one of the nights of WrestleMania. That's what I thought was going to happen deep down.
Well,
I didn't see 5 months early.
Despite there being several reports out there about him being full-time and it being a 3-year deal, which is believed to be the case, his schedule leading up to the Rumble is pretty bare. I think he's slated for Raw on January 8th, and then one more time before the Rumble, and then again at the Rumble. And I hope that's just a scheduling thing
So that's three times in a month.
because of how late the deal came together.
Right.
So hopefully he will be, excuse me, more regular. I don't really want to see part-time Punk, if I'm being honest, because I don't think you should be expecting many big wins out of him if he's part-time Punk. But if he's there all the time, and the thing that makes me believe he's going to be there all the time too is he's in the intro now too, multiple times. So I suspect he's going to be there.
I mean, I think it's safe to say we'll get him three times a month.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not watching full Raw episodes anyways. I get the breakdown of what the show plan is from Fightful, and then I try to tune in while he's on TV. That's just where I'm at. And then, honestly, that's also one of the reasons. I'm going to get to Richard's question here shortly, but that's also one of the reasons why, like, I don't want AEW to go to business, but I do want them to admit that they have issues and fix them as soon as they can, and not let the inmates run the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know people who we do shows with or talk to occasionally, who, as soon as they heard the rumor of WBD possibly getting Raw, it was immediately, no, there's no chance, no way, never going to happen. I put no stock into that for multiple of them. And this is how I took it. Doesn't mean this is how they felt. This is how I took it. It's like, oh, you see that as a threat to AEW, so that's your stance. And it is a threat to AEW, Matt. It's just that simple. It really
should
is.
Be. I mean, it should be. I mean, I don't want to say you should be fearful. That's the wrong word to use, but I mean, they're that deal is going to go down sooner or later. I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be WBD or not. I honestly don't. We'll have to wait and see. But, like, it's a very distinct possibility. And I can't help and sit here and wonder, has AEW completely squandered their chance? That doesn't mean AEW is not going to get another deal. That doesn't mean AEW won't stay with WBD. It all depends. But it does leave them a little in limbo. What's that saying for a coach who plays out the last year of his contract without an extension?
Lame duck.
Lame duck. Yeah, correct. And it kind of feels like, at least behind the scenes, that is what AEW has become. And I don't want them to go away, Matt. I want the ability to watch Punk and a few of the WWE guys that I still like do their things on PLEs and, watch Punk and see what he does on his, what's probably going to be his final run here over the course of the next couple of years, But I also want to be able to watch AEW. I still want to see what Source Strickland's doing. And, when they're not making MJF lame as shit, I still want to see what's going on with him. And I like Ricky Starks, although I bet you he goes to WWE before too long. I like Adam Copeland, Edge, Christian. AEW still has a lot of guys. I like Jericho as a performer, although I haven't really liked anything he's done
lately.
Yeah, at all over the course of the last year. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I want AEW to live and be healthy and thrive, but their roster's too damn big. Their Saturday night TV slot sucks, and the inmates run the asylum. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm not one of those guys that's cheering on the demise of AEW. Like,
I'm not either.
It came out, WBD picks up Raw. I'm sure part of me is going to be like, oh man, well, we got to talk about this and all the things that went wrong. And on one level, it's going to be like, yeah, hey, karma's a bitch. But on another level, I'm then going to be like, well, no, they need to land something because I don't want AEW to go away.
They'll land something.
I think realistically, though, if they don't re-up with Warner Brothers, I don't think it'll be an increase. I think that it'll be either what they have or even a decrease. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there, man. Before we get ready to go here, did you see any of the Punk MSG stuff from last night? Did you see any of that?
I woke up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock this morning. and you had posted it or something like that, or something I was getting, and I watched it. A little rusty. I mean, you would be rusty after 3 months. But
I thought it was a good match.
I thought it was a good match, and I love. And it's crazy to think how Dom is getting all the like the Orton match. Now he got the Punk match.
He's got another Punk match coming on the 30th.
Yeah.
So
it's like good for him.
Oh, and those wondering in terms of CM Punk in the Stone Cold looking tights there, that was not the plan. He had custom made ring gear that wasn't ready to go till basically the morning of the show, and it didn't end up fitting. So it was supposed to be special MSG gear. So he went with the only other thing he had, the plain black, which is typically what he'll wear under the trunks. So, yeah, I mean, I was okay with it. I think the long boys though at this day and age. I know long boys on Punk might look weird to people, but I mean, the dude's 45 years old. If he wants to cover up his legs, leave the fucking guy alone. Yeah. I'm okay with it. I just want to look at the chat here, man, before we go, just to see if there's anything interesting that has come up there. I know some people put some stuff out there. Dean admits to being a Halloween Ends fan. There you have it. Confirmed. Dean Renner, Halloween Ends fan.
What is he actually admitting he's a Halloween Ends fan now?
No. Or maybe.
I think so.
Richard, I heard someone say that George Lucas said Luke became the most powerful Jedi ever. Thoughts on that? He did say that at one point in time, but he said a lot of things. So, and at the end of the day, as much as I hate to admit it, it almost doesn't matter anymore, sadly.
Grain of salt.
Hannistown, the only way to fix Rey is to have all the Force Ghosts show up. Luke, Ben, Good Vader, Leia, all of them, even have Kylo's baby. Just going to be an episode of Everyone Loves Raymond with Force Ghosts, and they're just going to bicker for 24 minutes?
No, they're just going to, it's going to be like the porn version where all the Force Ghosts get together and watch them two do it, you know.
Byron, is there any news on Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2 coming out? No, there's not.
I've heard Ian McGregor is very open to the idea of doing a second season.
He's open to doing more, but I suspect he will see the Obi-Wan character in a different form of in a show that is not his own, basically next, rather than in a season of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm not saying they won't do more, but it is way, 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 way on the back burner at this point. Like, that's nothing that you're going to see anytime in the next couple of years. So if that was your hope, I'm sorry I rained on your parade. Dean says, anytime I hear Revenge of the Sith, I have no choice but to think of Zack and Miri. The Revenge.
Oh, God.
Shit. I remember that movie.
I remember that scene.
Richard, what do you think was the most funniest wrestling scene, and why was it Jay Lethal's Ric Flair impression? Well, it wouldn't be that one for me. Just saying, it would not be that one for me. Funniest wrestling scene, probably something with DX. You know, I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, but DX did a lot of funny shit. So I would say something with DX. What about you, Matt? Anything come to mind?
I'm still think in Binghamton Coliseum, which is only about 45 minutes away from me. That was still one of the funniest scenes.
Look up Jericho's tirade over a match with RVD in 2002. In 2002, I would have taken RVD over Jericho any day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
I think he beat Jericho a bunch of times, too. Any Friday the 13th news? How's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game going? Too much like Dead by Daylight. I'll be honest, I played it twice. I did not like it. I did not think it was as good as Friday the 13th. There's definitely Dead by Daylight vibes to it. I think for me, the game can be a little confusing at times, and the maps to me are nowhere near as good as Friday the 13th. Although the Friday the 13th maps are literally pulled right out of the old movies, right? So, like, there's a form of nostalgia there that I'm not saying the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game doesn't possess any of it, but not on the level of the Friday the 13th game. Dean says Friday the 13th is light. Only thing on the way is Crystal Lake on streaming. Not many updated details on it that I've heard recently. The biggest thing is Brian Fuller said he expects to be shooting this year. So in the meantime, if you're waiting for that, go check out Hannibal that he did. I haven't watched it in a long time, but it was a badass show, and it's in good hands, in my opinion.
I agree.
I don't know what's worse, the dumbass WWE fanatics that think there isn't anything but E, or the AEW zealots that believe Tony Khan could take a shit in the middle of the ring and it's a 4-star. Both sides are terrible, man. I could not agree more with that take. And we were talking about that to kick off the show, actually. I know Matt wasn't here at that time, but like it becomes, it's more about having your feelings validated these days and vilifying the other person than it is talking about what's fact and what's not. I get it. I do. And hey, I might be a Punk guy, but that doesn't mean I'm a big WWE guy. But AEW has a ton of issues that need to be fixed, or there won't be an AEW to fix. I wish that he'd wear the shorts again. I think the shorts are probably his best bet, in my opinion. Whether he does or not, we'll have to wait and see. LMAO, that was when Matt first popped on the screen to join. Just getting them now. My apologies. Right, we didn't talk Supernatural tonight. I totally forgot to do that before we got rid of Tommy. Also, I'd be worried about Supernatural returning because the Winchesters being a flop, in my opinion. Plus, the best two characters were Lucifer and Crowley. Don't see them coming back. I didn't think the Winchesters was a flop. Obviously, it got canceled. I haven't seen the last 2 episodes yet, although I know what happens. I thought the Winchesters was really good for a spinoff, and that's what it was. It was a spinoff. I thought it was very well done. I wasn't the biggest fan of certain things that happened in the last couple of seasons of Supernatural. Still watched the show, still loved a good chunk of it. But at the end of the day, Jensen and Jared should have had more power and more say with what happened with those characters, and they didn't. And the big Supernatural thing, anyways, that we wanted to talk about is they wanted to have more of a darker horror feel to it, to be a little more gritty, like the early days of Supernatural, if they're to come back, and a little less like it was towards the end, which I agree with. That's definitely the direction that they should go if they come back. And it does sound like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when and how much money and support they have. So we'll wait and see. Anyways, though, that's going to do it. Is it the final show of this year? I don't know. Do Sean and Matt think Tony Khan needs to clean his shit up and that, he isn't the second coming? Yeah, I think we do. I know there's a lot of AEW and Tony Khan apologists out there. And I'm sure there's a lot of WWE elitists too. But the simple truth is, I'm sure both products could do something to improve. The difference is one is going really fucking good right now and selling out everywhere. And the other one is filling 30% of the arenas they book. So that's where we are right now. I want the best for both companies. I want to see good wrestling when I have time to watch it. Matt, where can everybody find you at? What do you have going on, man?
Eat, sleep, work, repeat. Eat, sleep, work, repeat. That's what I have going on. And then I'll pop on every once in a while on here, but I'm like Tommy, but a little more often.
Yeah, we do what we can, however we can do it. Lots more to come on the channel. Next week we'll feature the return of, in some form or fashion, Tonight in Haddonfield, and then tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon, you'll get the best of Halloween 2018 video that Dean Renner and I did. And then next week you can catch some form of Tonight in Haddonfield, the legacy of Star Wars, and this show. Actually, this show might be on an off week next week, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But the legacy of Star Wars is slated to go, so check that out Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. But for Matt, Tommy B, Dean Renner, and everybody else at Fandom Empire, to all of you out there, happy holidays, safe travels, have a great one, and we'll see you next time. Happy New Year.
Ha-